everybody. Today we are here with Chief Kirk for our 20th anniversary commemorative interview. So we just want to thank you for taking a few minutes of your time. We've got a lot of questions from several different students from all different schools in Houston, and even through Kravology subscribers, wanting to know a little bit more about the history of the school and how you came into Krav Maga.
Okay.
So we'll start with the first one. What kinds of martial arts did you do before you started Krav?
As a younger person, I did Muay Thai, which is sort of Taekwondo. And then throughout high school and college, I was really focused on Jun Fan, or what would later become Jeet Kune Do, as well as Jiu-Jitsu as it became popular through the Gracies early on.
What brought you into your Krav Maga training?
Well, I was robbed at gunpoint. It was years and years, 20-something years ago. And while the assailant was holding the gun on me and asking for my wallet, I realized I don't have any training in this, right? And in the aftermath of that, I started thinking, why? I'm training like the world's all this big fantasy, right? Like someone's going to walk up and go, hey, I'm going to fight you for your wallet. And it was just how ironic it was that I was engaging in these martial arts that had nothing to do with self-defense. And I realized that I want my martial art or my martial science or the study of martial things and ideas to be deeply steeped in self-defense. And I started looking and searching, and I found Krav Maga. I interviewed people on the phone. I looked at the videos they produced early on, and I realized this is what I was looking for, and that's how it started.
That's awesome. I'm going to kind of go a little bit out of order because I think
Sure.
this is going to follow a little bit more of the natural flow. But how did you train and develop your own Krav Maga skills without the kind of infrastructure or the instructors like we have in place here for students? How did you do that when you started?
I think a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is about what you do, or what I did, or what the individual, the sovereign individual, should do. I think it's not a secret if you've been to the schools that a lot of my training outside of the visits to California were by myself. I was alone. So I did a lot of training in the mirror. I did a lot of heavy bag training, but I did a lot of visualization. And I really had this sort of biological ignition around really needing to understand and study why this worked. So I think the key for most people when they study something is ask yourself, are you prepared to really go deep? Are you prepared to ask questions of yourself? Are you prepared to work out of class? If you don't have a partner, if the ideal situation doesn't exist, what are you going to do to ensure that you get out of the process and the training what you need, right? And that's what happened with me. So a lot of training by myself, a lot of contemplation, a lot of moving slowly, a lot of visualization, and a lot of sort of active visualization where I think, okay, there's the gun, there's the attacker. How am I moving? How are they reacting? It was really very much a focus on making it work no matter what. And I think if your attitude is, I'm going to make this work no matter what, because I've been ignited in a way that's almost at a biological, cellular level, then you're going to make it work. And having been robbed at gunpoint, that was there for me. I really needed to know why this works. I needed to, as Einstein said, I need to ask the question why 7 times. I needed to get to the root of it. And that's never changed. So some of the thinking that comes out of the school and the way I train instructors is rooted in this idea of really thinking about understanding what you're doing and why, and then proving it to yourself. I call that the rent-to-own process, where when I tell you something or I try to teach you something, you're renting that information from me until you have a powerful, tangible, physical experience with that information, at which case sort of the proverbial light bulb goes off, and now you own it. Because you know it in your head, but you felt it in your body, and the union of those things becomes powerful. So when people ask me, how did you do this or how did you do that, or how did you get to where you are without help? The answer is you don't need help. You need commitment. That's the answer.
What would you say has been the most important obstacle that you've had to overcome in your training?
I think well, if I hear what the question is really getting at, I think what most people run into in terms of the wall in their training is something I had to go through as well, is at what point do you trust yourself to know the right answer? Because until that point, as I said previously, you're sort of renting information. So that after you rent the information, you have that experience, I own that now. The next step is to believe, because you've had enough of those experiences, that you can figure out the answer through whatever paradigm or methodology you've developed, and that you're capable and competent enough to know. Trusting yourself to know the right answer and to work through it in a way that's powerful for you and then powerful for the people you teach. I think that's the key.
All right, I have another one for you.
Okay.
How have your methods of teaching or coaching shifted over the years?
Oh, that's an interesting question. When I first started, I described sort of the intensity with which I worked, the commitment, the discipline with which I worked. I think the other thing that I've really shifted away from is this really powerful, violent, vocal sort of persona, right? If you talk to some of the people who've been with me for 10 plus years, they will tell you when I used to do demos, people would leave the room. Like new students would come to class. At that point, there was a lot of level 1 students because we were getting started. So a new person might wander into class I was teaching because I taught the majority of classes, and I would show straight punch on the pad, and I would pull, really go hard on the pad, really powerfully, almost like my own personal anger management class, right? And I've had people drop the pad and walk out of class, right? I've had people come back and say, you bruised my ribs. I've had people come back and say, you separated my ribs, which is not good, right? It's a demonstration of what not to do. I've evolved in the way that I teach and the way that I approach teaching, because I understand that it's more than just a violent explosion, and that to connect with people in a way that creates the circumstances around which they can flourish, there has to be a level of trust and connection there. And so I think the major shift for me is moving away from shock and awe to a level of connection and understanding and advocacy I didn't have before. And I'm glad I made the switch.
When I was interviewing some of the black belts, I don't know if you've been aware that I've been doing that.
No.
But I was asking them for stories from when they first started training with you, and all of them refused to give me stories. So.
I don't know if that's good.
I don't know either. They're like, I don't think we want that on camera. I was like,
I think that's maybe not good. But I would say, in response to that, one of the things that's really powerful is when, if you find people that can put up with you while you're growing as an instructor, because they're so powerfully connected to what you're doing, like you were connected to what you're doing when you had a teacher, or I had a teacher. It creates a powerful brotherhood or sisterhood, and certainly a powerful community. And for people that are training and they want to get to the black belt or higher, there really has to be a commitment from those folks to dig in and to constantly examine themselves, like I examine myself. But when you have a core group of students that are committed to learning, it doesn't really matter to them how you're teaching. They just want the information. And that turns into something different. It turns into something more. And there becomes a respect and a sort of understanding. I have several multi-level black belts that I've trained, and I might not see them for weeks at a time, or they might be out, or we might have missed each other for a month because we weren't at the school at the same time. it's always the same. I see them, we lock eyes, and there's a brotherhood and an understanding and a kinship there that is unbreakable and unmistakable.